Hi everyone, it's 9 o'clock on a Thursday night. It's about the third or fourth week in January. It's time for our first handicap rugby chat that batters of the year. Yeah, it hasn't been a lot of rugby to bet on this year. We've had some Currie Cup, a bit of European action. COVID-19, of course, has played quite a big role in getting games postponed. But it does mean this week that we get some Pro 14 matches to talk about, some make-up matches. And of course, we have a very strange scenario from a South African point of view. We have Currie Cup semi-finals taking place in January. So we're going to have a look at both of those games now from a betting angle, of course. And when we talk betting, who do we think of? We think of Son of a Punt. It's Jordan, one half of Son of a Punt on Twitter. Yeah, Jordan, good to see you back on the show, and Happy New Year to you.
How's it, Brent? Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Happy New Year to you too. Would love to be sitting here with a cold beer in hand, but those have become more and more scarce as the booze ban gets extended. So yeah, here I am with a glass of water. Sad times.
Cheers. I've got the same in front of me there at the moment, and it's really hot in Johannesburg. I pulled out my old, I think it's from our 2009 Bulls shirt to wear. So I've got a feeling you and I might clash in at least one of the games today. But welcome to the guys in the live chat. Mike wanting some guidance for his granny's pension. Dino, welcome to you as well. Good to see all of you guys. Look forward to a great year of rugby. It's going to be a bit disrupted early, but I think we're in for some cracking rugby overall. And of course, just hoping things like the Lions tour and that works out, although things not looking so good for that at the moment. But Jordan, I just want to, before we get into the show, I see Mike there. He said something about Granny's pension. And of course, there's only one person you think of when you think of Granny's pension, and that's Oracle. And Oracle's 50th birthday today. There we go. Oracle 50 not out. And I'll just, for those of you who may not have seen Oracle for a while, there's just a little reminder. Oh, that didn't work out well. I bought it on underneath instead of on top. But there's your man, Oracle, there sitting in the stadium with a drink. You can't do that nowadays, unfortunately. But a big happy birthday. He's not watching the show live. I'm sure he's celebrating a bit tonight. But anyway, Oracle, have a good one. Have a good one for your 50th, mate. I hope it's a cracker. But let's change the background back to Newland, shall we? But yeah, Jordan. So yeah, Oracle, a bit of a legend in his own right. He's taking a bit of a break at the moment. And I've got to tell you that this Currie Cup for me has proved a little bit of a tough one. I normally the Currie Cup I make a lot of money, and it's normally because I go for overs points quite a lot in the Currie Cup. It's just one of those tournaments. But this tournament, I don't know if it's the heat that they've been playing in or what, but we just haven't had the free-flowing games until really the Pumas-Bulls games, a couple of weeks ago, where I fortunately made quite a bit back on. But it just hasn't been the same tournament.
Yeah, so just firstly, quick happy birthday to the Oracle. Always there to put a smile on your face with some good banter and a call on Sunwolves to beat the Crusaders away. Yeah, Oracle, thanks for always cheering us up. And then, yeah, the Currie Cup it's been interesting this year. I think, as you said, the time of year has made it slightly bizarre because the games in the Highveld, there's been a lot of rain and the pitches have been a bit soft, so there haven't been as many points up there. The only thing that's really stayed constant is unders at Newlands. But,
yes.
Really it's been strange because Kimberley and Loftus and Joburg haven't seen points, which is unusual. And, when you see a game, for example, Griquas Pumas, your initial thought is overs. And you think, okay, even if the line is anywhere in the 50s, 59.5, geez, I'm going to be taking over. It's going to be 80 points in this game. And then you kind of end up with these 24, 19, like tight, for lack of a better word, shitfests with real poor skill sets from particularly the bigger unions. I must say I've been really disappointed with the back line of the Sharks and the Stormers. I mean, I've been pleasantly surprised by the Pumas. I think they've been brilliant, particularly at set piece. I think they've manned up really well and almost dominated a lot of the teams. And obviously Lions have lost a lot of players recently, going overseas to other unions, etc. So they kind of showed almost a new look side, and I think they've done decently. Obviously Griquas have been quite poor, but Province have just relied on their pack, and I think the best team on the log, top of the log, the most well coached team, and the best squad is clearly the Bulls, and I think they're definitely going to be favourites to lift the Currie Cup in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, well, I had a look at the outright betting. I don't think many bookmakers are priced up. Certainly, I don't think any bookmakers priced up after Super Rugby unlocked. I think they realised it was a hell of a trap with COVID games being cancelled and that. But I see World Sports Betting, they opened before the semi-finals 11-10 the Bulls, and I see the Bulls now 8-10, which I think is probably a more realistic price. Just to welcome Jules, who's also in the live chat there. He's a Dragon supporter. Let's hope the Dragons have a good year. I'm not sure. I haven't looked if they play, and I don't think they play in this weekend. But anyway, we'll get Jordan. We'll get into the Currie Cup games now. Let's start with the first game, and that's going to be the Bulls up against the Lions. Now, this one, if I have a look at betting movement in this, now I didn't realize. Well, I did realize, but I straight after the last round of Currie Cup matches, I did my handicap projection video, and I went Bulls minus 9.5, and the Province game we'll talk about later minus 3.5, and effectively there was some plus 11.5 Lions available earlier. The money seems to have come for the Lions because there's some 9.5 about, there's some 8.5 about, but that's generally where the handicap seems to have settled.
Yeah, I mean, I've even seen 10.5 at Hollywood Bets at 9-10. And look, I think this market is well set, and I think the Lions showed last week, 2 weeks ago against the Bulls that they have the mettle to stand up against the big guns, and especially with a guy like Tiaan Swanepoel at 15, who was kicking penalties from all around the field, from up to 60 meters out. Although Bulls have their own in Mornay Steyn or Chris Smith on the bench, I think the Lions showed that at set piece they were able to kind of stay up there with the Bulls, and they were menace on the ground at ruck time, and they won a lot of penalties, and they kicked their penalties. And I think it's not going to be much different this weekend. I think in both games, but particularly this game, I'll be looking for a combination of under tries or over penalties. I think Rasta Rashivenga's on the whistle, and he loves his whistle. He also likes to chat to the front rows and try and assert, his confused dominance. But he also likes to award the attacking team a penalty. So I can really see Tiaan Swanepoel and Mornay Steyn knocking them over from at least the halfway line. The weather looks good in Pretoria, and I mean, what we've seen here is hot weather hasn't necessarily resulted in lots of points, as we mentioned earlier. So I think I wouldn't kind of confuse the two. I think the hot weather here will actually result in a much slower game. Obviously, when the ball is in play, the hands will hopefully be a bit better, but I think the game will be much slower with both teams trying to slow it down. And I think we'll see penalties traded at any opportunity. So, I mean, at the moment, my key focus when points and tries come out will be unders on tries and overs on penalties. But at this handicap, at plus 10, I might have a nibble on the Lions. But I think it's quite well set. And I think if the Bulls go up early, they could run away with it by extending the lead through polls. That's always the issue with these knockout games.
It is. I mean, I did a little bit of research on the semi-finals, and I see last year was 15 points the difference, 21 in the other one. Of the last 10 semi-finals, 6 of them have been by sort of double-figure margins. And over the years in Super Rugby, I've done a lot of research on playoffs. And playoff games I often find aren't as close as people expect. And we've discussed this before, that one of the reasons for that is that let's just say the Bulls do get ahead in this case. They're going to be content just to bang over the 3 points. And they got the perfect man for the job then in Mornay Steyn, just to keep accumulating. Whereas assuming they do get sort of 10 points ahead of the Lions, there's no bonus point to play for the Lions. They're going to have to probably start going for the tries. So it's not to say that that's what's going to happen, but I'm not afraid to take a minus handicap if I like a team in the semifinals. And as you can see from the shirt I'm wearing, I do fancy the Bulls. I'm quite happy to see that the line is coming to 8.5 because I'm comfortable to take that. I think it's going to be a real battle. I think obviously key here is going to be the scrums. I mean, I thought the Lions had the better of the scrums in their last meeting, even though there was a couple of bizarre decisions from the referee on the day where he was clearly giving the sort of weaker scrum the penalty. But I think the scrum is going to be absolutely crucial. And I think Jake White will have a plan. I think he's picked a strong front row. And I do think the Bulls will get some sort of parity in the scrums. And I think they're going to – this could be something similar to their group game against the Cheetahs where they pulled clear in the second half and won comfortably. So I am looking at the Bulls on the minus there. If I had points lines or whatever, I'd probably might look at may have a better best bet, but that's what I'm looking at now. But Jordan, let me give you a couple of lines. You can tell me if you think I'm going to be close. I reckon they'll price up tries here. What do you think? Over under 5.5? They'll probably go like 7 to 10 under, 11 to 10 over. Do you think that's somewhere where we might be looking on tries?
Jeez, I wish if you gave me that, I'd absolutely pounce.
You'd snap my hand off. Yes.
I really think they will give it at that line, just based on the weather and the fact that Rasta is reffing. And I mean, I just think that the weather even money line probably should be is more like 4.5, and unders, is at 7 to 10. I think that's where it probably should be. And even then, I'd still be tempted to take the unders. I mean, also another bet that I also liked a couple of weeks ago was more penalties than tries. It was available in Europe. I don't know if it was necessarily available in South Africa, but if it is, it's always an interesting one, especially with teams with good kickers. And I think both these semi-finals have that exactly. But at a line of 5.5 tries, I would go unders.
And total penalties, I think a couple of the local bookmakers offer that. So you normally get a line in a game like this. I would imagine you'll probably be looking at about 5.5 penalties. And now I'd be looking. I mean, I think this could be a game where we could have 6 penalties a team. Almost. Yeah, I think we could get somewhere around 8 to 9 penalties in this game. What do you think?
Yeah, so Brent, actually, I think WSB they provide this market in South Africa, and I remember they had, I think, over 5 penalties in the previous game between these two, but I took it in Europe, and also it had over 4.5, and I think it won in the first 22 minutes. There were 6 penalties converted in the first 27 minutes. So I mean, I don't think there'll be that many. I think teams will be slightly more disciplined, but I really, as you said, I can also see 4 or 5 pens a team here.
Excellent. So look out for the points lines, and that obviously there's a link to the Good for the Game forum down below. It's been pretty quiet start to the year. We haven't had a lot to talk about, but certainly when the points lines comes out, guys will be placing their bets there. And we'll also be sending out our first newsletter of the year tomorrow. It'll probably go out quite late. I think I'm going to wait for the points lines before sending it out. So it might even be on Saturday morning. But if you haven't subscribed yet, it's a free letter that just goes out once a week from us sharing our best bets. And you can subscribe to that down below, the link in the show. Welcome also to Frank or Chris, CL Rugby on the Good for the Game forum. He reckons it's going to be top 14 style penalty show. And I know he's not feeling too well at the moment. So, yeah, I hope you get better soon there, Chris, as well. But I think Jordan and I both agree with you. And Dino just mentioning that Elton will also kick for post at every opportunity, because the Lions, of course, are a team that tend to run the ball, or they certainly historically have been like that. But in a knockout game, there's no doubt about it that we're going to go for posts. I guess just maybe in closing on this game, Jordan, a man like Couch Critic will be eyeing out the hookers here and saying they're probably going to get on the scoreboard with tries. And if I look at this Currie Cup, I mean, it's been an absolute delight for someone like him. And I know you've jumped on a few times as well. It really, very few backline tries, very few great moves to cause tries, a lot of rolling mauls from lineouts. And I think we're going to see more of the same.
Yeah, I also think so, Brent. But now we don't really have poor defenses on show. Even though there were good teams scoring more tries against other good teams, I think we're going to see much tighter defensive displays. So I think if there is going to be a try, there's a chance it could be a maul, but I wouldn't be as confident as previous weeks. Obviously, when you're up against a team like the Pumas or the Griquas, you can get some ascendancy and you're looking for a bonus point. So teams tend to kick to the corner. Here, I think if a try happens, it'll happen. If you think about how the World Cup final, how South Africa scored their 2 tries, they were kind of, beautiful, magical X-factor plays. And I think if we're going to see them, there'll probably be something similar. However, in saying that, it's hard to rule out a rolling thunder, particularly but in the next game, in the Province Sharks game with Bongi Mbonambi. I think he could be up there in the leading try scorers list.
Excellent. Well, we'll talk about that game in just a second. Just welcome to one of our Facebook viewers there, Dave, also a regular on the show. Dave, good to hear from you. And I wonder what the weather's like there in Dublin. Look forward to your comments on the Pro 14 and having you on the show again soon. Jordan, let's move into the next game. It's Western Province against Sharks. I've just taken Sunbet's prices. I know the handicap varies here a little bit. I priced this as -3.5 Western Province. The line, I think, came out -2.5 at WSB, and I think Province were backed out. But I've now seen, perhaps on the news that Kitshoff is not playing, I've now sort of seen, it seems like the line's moving more towards the Sharks now. So let's call it 4.5, 3.5. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think Stephen's a big loss for Province. I think He's their kingpin, not only at scrum time, but with ball carries, with work rates, with leadership. Not necessarily as the captain, because he's obviously the only captain in Kolisi's absence, but he's just your. I mean, as Chris Lecharge said on our one group, he's the first name on any World 15 team sheet, and I mean, I think it's a massive loss for Province, and unfortunately, Ali Vermaak is a good scrummager, but he's not Stephen Kitchoff, so I think it's a big loss for Province, and that's at least a couple of points. I think Kitchoff himself would have at least earned 3-4 penalties at scrum time, and then 2 or 3 penalties at rack time as well. So it's a big loss. My initial feel here was that in a game that generally goes blow for blow, you've got to take the team on the big plus. So for me, the plus 4.5 is a juicy bet, especially considering the fact that Sharks have won the last 2 out of the last 3 encounters at Newlands. And they've got a guy like Thomas du Toit back, and they've kind of got a nice settled pack, which I think will give the Province pack a run for their money. Obviously, the Province have a great front row themselves, so I think it is going to be a big battle up there. But yeah, again, it's going to be a story of Kerwin Bosch versus Tim Swiel, who can kick the most penalties. We know Kerwin can kick them from a long way, even at the coast. I think it's going to be good weather in Cape Town, perfect weather actually, but it will still probably produce an unders result. Marius van der Westhuizen's on the whistle, and he's generally a bit of an overs ref, but for me, everything in this game is leaning towards a similar thing: under tries, over penalties. But I'm more confident on the plus here, and I think I'd kind of pull an oracle here and say, forget about the handicap, just take Sharks on the board, or Sharks to qualify.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth there. I actually like the Sharks to win the game. I fancied them even before the Kitshoff news, although I was doubting myself perhaps a little bit. But I just haven't been impressed by Western Province. I feel they've relied purely on their scrum. And I think the Sharks with Thomas du Toit back are going to be a lot stronger. And I think the Sharks are going to get the better of this game at some point, and they're going to win the match. So I'm looking at them on the board. I'll certainly look like Chris is doing there at the 4.5 as well. So it seems to be quite a few guys leaning there. I'm interested to see Neil has joined us, saying good evening. And I know Neil was one of the early Western Province backers. I'm interested, Neil, to see your points, your comments there on the sort of team news. One thing for sure, yeah, we're probably going to get a close game. Another market you might want to look at is things like Western Province, if they're going to win by under 12.5, or if the Sharks are going to win perhaps by under 12.5, you can probably get a decent price around 22-10 on the Sharks there. Let's see what Neil's saying here. You can get the Sharks to beat Western Province at 2-1 if you fancy that. So yes, 2-1. I'll certainly have a look at that. And total points, let's touch on the line. I'm expecting, the bookies are no fools. They're going to come in a bit lower on this one. What do you think? 42.5, 43.5 perhaps?
Well, I think we'll probably get the 45.5, just based on the fact that it's summer in Cape Town, and it's a slightly later game, afternoon kickoff, 4:30. And yeah, so I think they'll expect it to be tight, but I think it will hopefully be a more skilled, highly skilled game than just a wet unders game. But yeah, I think at 45.5, I'd probably stay out of it, just because I struggle to go unders at those lower points lines when you have guys like Kerwin Bosch and Tim Swiel, who's been kicking really well of late. And those threes add up. I think if we remember the last, was it Stormer who did Province beat with that buzzer beater kick? Oh, the Cheetahs. Yeah. So that was a game that
Swiel,
that was a game that you didn't really expect many points, but Swiel just kept kicking the penalties, and Frans Steyn just kept kicking the penalties. And at no stage did the game ever look like it was going to get to over 45 points, but those penalties just kept on coming. So, it's just one of those that if that tries line comes available, I'd rather, take unders on that. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they're going to be more penalties than tries. They're going to be more penalties than tries in the semi-finals.
Yeah, I think that could be a good call. I know, but Henrik always says, because Henrik is obviously a big unders player, And often, he says at the start of the game when the guys are going for the corner and he's on unders, he's more than happy because it's when they take the penalties that things just keep accumulating. And then there are a couple of tries and all of a sudden your unders line is gone. Whereas if they're going for the corner and eventually, maybe they'll score the odd one, but they're going to get repelled quite often as well. Well, all the boys are joining us here. Good to have Brady on the line as well. Brady, good to have you here. I don't know if there's any top 14 taking place in this weekend, but feel free to post any bets you might have for us there. But certainly looking forward to this Currie Cup semi-finals, Jordan. And of the Currie Cup, what would you say your best bet is at this stage, or is your advice to hold fire and wait for the tries?
Geez, I'll definitely hold fire and wait for the tries, so save some powder for that. But if I had to pick a bet right now, it would definitely be the Sharks plus 4.5.
The Sharks plus 4.5. Right, well, that's the Currie Cup. So Sharks plus 4.5. Jordan and I are both in agreement on that one. I am quite confident on the Bulls minus 8.5 as well. I do like them. I think that Mornay is going to keep the scoreboard ticking and they're going to pull clear and beat the Lions in the end by double-figure margin. Let's move on, though, and talk a little bit of European rugby, Jordan. We've got the Pro 14. Now, these games, if I'm not mistaken, are make-up fixtures, so they're games that were cancelled due to COVID. I see we've got 4 games, and good news for those of us who enjoy a bit of Friday night rugby. We've got the Scarlets against the Blues tomorrow night. And here we got the home team minus 4.5-point favourites. And just knowing where this game is being played, I'm sure the conditions are going to be awful without even looking.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought the same. And then actually also chatting to Brady earlier today, and he said it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful day in Llanelli. So I said, oh, geez, expecting to see, some bright sunshine. What he meant was a beautiful 0 degree late afternoon. So I think that's the type of good weather we can expect in Wales at this time of year. But I see the points line for that game is around 40.5, which is already quite low. And the handicap, I think, is Scarlets minus 4 versus Cardiff. Both teams look pretty, as far as a Welsh team at the moment can look, both teams look relatively stacked. I see Josh Navidi's back for Cardiff, and, Scarlets have a few big Welsh names. But, honestly, I don't have too much of a feel on this one. This isn't one of the games I have too much of a feel on. I certainly won't be spending my Friday night watching a game in Llanelli either. Nothing from this one for me.
Well, Mike was asking Brady if there's any players you can see his top 14 picks. Well, Brady does say later he does post them. If he has any this weekend, he'll post them on the Good for the Game forum. So make sure you subscribe to that link so you get notified of any new posts there. And let's move on to the next game then. It's Zebra up against Edinburgh. And looking at the betting here, it's plus 6.5 the home team, Jordan.
Yeah, Brent. So this game actually came out at Edinburgh minus 2.5 a few days ago. And I was chatting to the conductor. And we both agreed that Edinburgh, a.k.a. Scotland Internationals, versus Zebra, a.k.a. Italy's B team. Even though it's in Parma, the game, it should be a mismatch. You should expect Edinburgh to take care of Zebra and Parma, especially at that handicap. And at minus 6, I think the exact same. I think this, if I stand to be corrected, but I think this could be one of the last game weeks that the Pro 14 teams have their internationals before the Six Nations begin. I'm pretty confident Edinburgh will do the job. I've looked, the weather's decent in Parma, and it's a early afternoon game. I just can't. Scotland have been in good form, and I just can't see how 11 Scotsmen, if assuming they're all fit, won't do a job on Italy's B team. So for me, I'm pretty confident on the Edinburgh minus.
Right, Edinburgh minus, their confident pick from Jordan. Moving on, we've got Munster up against Leinster. This, of course, is a massive clash. I was looking so forward to this clash before it was postponed. So this is cracking. Munster being in some good form, and Leinster perhaps not at their best of late. They were beaten by Connacht a few weeks ago as well. And here we've got the home team, the slight underdogs at the moment. I don't know what the early betting was like, Jordan, but plus 2.5 Munster, minus 2.5 Leinster.
Yeah, that's stayed pretty constant. I think this game should be a cracker. And as you said, Leinster haven't been in the best of form, which is I suppose only, fair. They're allowed to have a slightly off period. They've been so good for so long. But it's really, for me, hard to look past Leinster at 7-10. I know Thoughts on Sports is quite confident on the Munster +3. I just think this is going to be a tough game. It's going to be Munster's forwards against Leinster's more expansive play. I think it's going to be a great game to watch. I don't have any money down right now, but I find it tough to look past the Leinster victory. Probably a 7-10 on the board, preferable to a -2, just in case Munster do keep it close. But I do like Leinster here. It's hard to go against them. Like, I'd rather not bet than go against Leinster. Except in that Connacht.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the Crusaders or something like that. You don't like to go against because you never feel safe as well. They're capable of running in some pretty quick points.
Yeah.
Did you say something about Connacht there, Jordan? Sorry, I
just said that. Also, except in that Connacht game, because that cap initially came out at +28.5. So I took some of that, and obviously Connacht won the game. So I didn't sweat for a second.
I think I went unders in that game. I can't remember the line, but it was probably low 40s. I went unders, and I had to go somewhere, like pick up my son or something like that. So I stopped the game, then I started forwarding it through. And I mean, I think Connacht raced into like a 20-something point lead, and you just know you've done your money then. I think there were loads of points in that game. It was just one of those things. But anyway, I know Henrik's also commented that the Pro 14 sometimes throws up a bit more points than what we would expect. Connacht against Ospreys is our final game to discuss. Jordan, it's on Sunday at 5 o'clock. And here we've got Connacht, who have impressed me the bits I've watched them this season. They're -8.5 against the Ospreys.
Yeah, I also like the way Connacht play. I think Andy Friend's done some good work with them. Again, I don't know too much about Ospreys as a team, and I've seen the caps about -8, -9. I just know that Connacht don't have Bundi Aki available, but again, I think they'll play a full strength side, so I would take Connacht on the minus here.
Connacht on the minus, and just see the Crow Tips is joining late. You can get him on Twitter, and he'll be on the show again soon. Particularly, we have some European rugby to discuss. So, that brings us to the end of the show. Jordan, anything else catch your eye on the weekend? Maybe even not rugby related, just betting related. I know you like to bet on your cricket and stuff as well.
Yeah, geez, unfortunately, I haven't had much time to watch cricket, although I've missed some crackers. Just been watching on catch-up, sadly. But I did see a bit of women's cricket, so South African women's against Pakistan women's. And I remember Andrew and I... I think it was the 2020 World Cup in about 2017. We decided to have a look at the women's cricket, and Pakistan had this spinner. I think most of the bowlers in women's cricket are spinners, but Pakistan had this one spinner, Nida Dar, and she used to bowl maiden after maiden after maiden in T20 internationals. So she was a money maker. And I happened to watch the highlights on catch up, and I saw she bowled at 10 overs for 30, taking 2 wickets, and scored 65 not out, batting at number 5 to nearly win Pakistan the game. So I'll definitely, if I have some time and happen to stumble onto the game, I'll be backing Nida Dar for a wicket or some runs. For anyone looking for something different.
Yeah, that's it, because there's not that much rugby to bet on this weekend. Okay, I've got something different for the boys as well. And I must thank Alan Marscrop, or Southpaw, who's on the Good for the Game forum. He posts on. He's been there. I mean, he's our feature race horse racing expert. He's been around since we started the Good for the Game forum. He's based in the UK. He loves his horse racing. He loves his soccer. He loves his rugby. And he's got a bet. He generally follows it with Liverpool, and it's shots on goal. Now, I didn't even know that bookmakers quoted this, but the other day I happened to follow one of his posts. He said Liverpool over 13.5 shots in their last game. I can't even remember who they were playing. They were on the road, though, I think. Anyway, it comfortably arrived. They made like 18 shots on goal. It's not on goal, it's 18 shots. It doesn't matter if the shot misses by 25 meters. If the guy was trying to score the goal, they chalk it up. And then I took Manchester United over 13.5 the other night, and that arrived. And Southpaw is quite strong on Liverpool over 17.5 shots tonight. Now, I've got even money on Sunbet last night. I see it has shortened to 7-10, but that's my interest for tonight. The game kicks off at 10 o'clock. I'll be going Liverpool over 17.5. You'll be surprised how... I hate backing corners and watching the game, but watching the game with shots is quite enjoyable. So maybe we can tempt a few of the boys into that, Jordan?
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. I might have a quick shop around just now.
Excellent. Well, just having a quick look, Brady just says keep an eye on PowerPoints over the weekend, or Poe, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Brever lost quite a lot of players out, and these are just his top 14 comments, and Castro is under 20 points as well. So you can catch his comments on that on the Good for the Game forum. Well, let's close it off then, Jordan, just to confirm then, so far your best bet, would you say, is the Sharks plus 4.5, or do you think any of the top, Pro 14 games are stronger than that?
Well, Edinburgh, I obviously loved Edinburgh at -2, but at the current lines, yeah, the Sharks plus is the best. But don't forget to save some powder for under tries in both the semi-finals.
Well, excellent. Well, make sure you're following at Son of a Punt on Twitter. I'm sure they'll be tweeting those. Look out for tips in the Good for the Game forum, and of course, subscribe to our newsletter down below as well. My best bet, I'm probably going to settle on something on the points as well, but I'm quite strong on the Bulls. I like the Bulls -8.5 at Loftus, and I'll probably take a double into the Sharks plus 4.5, or maybe I'll pull an Oracle on his 50th birthday and just take the Sharks there on the board. Jordan, great chatting with you. Thanks to all the guys in the live chat, and have a good weekend. And make sure you're home by 9 on Friday and Saturday nights.
Thanks, Brent. Good to be back, and good luck to everyone on the forum.
Excellent, guys. Thanks very much, and thanks to all the boys in the live chat. Always good having you on board. We'll see you next week, because now that we're back for good, of course. And there's going to be lots of rugby coming up. I think we've got 6 nations, then the Rainbow Cup. I don't even know what that is yet, but we'll have a look at that. But Jordan, thanks very much.